Hi, guys. Good evening, everyone. I'm Priyanka Gill. I'm a venture partner here at Kalaari Capital, and welcome to this week's edition of CXXO Masterclass. While we wait for a few more folks to join, I will just talk to Supriya generally, and then I'll introduce her to the crowd as well. Not that she needs any introduction. So I was going through the bio that is there for Supriya, and I was counting the number of awards that she has received. I think there were 10 in total. So I think one of the questions definitely is going to be that which one are you most proud of?
Uh, do you want me to answer that now?
No, no, no. I think that let's just wait for a minute or so and then we can start.
Yeah. Yes, I'm glad you did the effort of counting.
I did count, yes.
Awesome.
Hi, guys. This is Priyanka Gill. I'm a venture partner at Kalaari Capital, and welcome to this edition of CXXO Masterclass. It's an exciting one. It's about women building impactful communities. And there's literally no other person in the country that I'd want to be talking to on this topic. I welcome to CXXO Masterclass Supriya. She is a preeminent founder. She's just turned 30 as of not so long ago. But despite that, she has a long list of achievements under her belt. And I was just talking before this introduction that the number of awards that she's received is actually quite interesting too. But before we get there, Supriya, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, where did you start, how did you start, and just a little bit about what makes you you.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for having me here. So just to give context, I started Josh Talks along with Shobit, my co-founder, about 9.5 years ago, when we were in our final year of college. And both of us shared this, common frustration that young people have so much potential, but there is no platform that is giving direction to that potential. And if there was a way to change that, if there was a way to change who your mentor was or who your career guide was, would that have a tangential impact on your career outcome? And there was no better word than Josh, because all we wanted to do was instill drive in people to do something and be somebody. And I think that's what makes me me. I think, I like to see myself as a true representation of Josh, because that's what I wake up with every single day, the energy to do more, be more, and create change.
So you were born in Delhi, from what I know, right?
Yeah.
So born in Delhi, you went to school in Delhi. Where did you go to university?
So I went to Delhi University itself. I went to Venkateshwara College, which people also call as Venki in South Campus, and I did my BCom honors from there.
And how many years after did you start? How did you meet Shobit and did you start Josh then?
So we actually started while we were in college, in our final year, and that's when we had also met. So I'd met Shobit through a common friend who you also know, Keshav, and that's how sort of we, like got brainstorming and tried to figure out what we wanted to do. But yeah, I think I think the best part about college was the ability to not be in class, but to actually start and run our venture alongside, because that 1 year of no pressure gave us a lot of leeway to experiment, to be ready for when we graduated to set it up as an enterprise.
So talk to me about those early years of Josh. That first year of Josh. What was that about, and how did that kind of become then a startup? And then how did you find investors? How did you scale and grow?
Yeah. So the first year, honestly, Priyanka, was just like, trying to figure out what our identity was and what was actually needed or missing. And we started it out within the college community, right? So we said that the best way to get instant feedback is to do events. So where we would call these speakers who had, a prominent story, they had transformation where they had moved from point A to point B, and all we wanted was for them to come on stage and simply share their story, and we would take live feedback on account of that. So we actually used that year to tour all of Delhi University. We did one event which was independent, and then we did multiple college events, including the SRCC Youth Conference, which also got us a lot of buzz in this whole college circuit. But that gave us like on ground feedback instantly. We would know what kind of content type is working, what's not, what are people appreciating, what are stories that are actually creating an impact where someone is getting up and taking an action based on it, and what is content that's making people just feel like, okay, ha, this is great, but I'm a passive listener to this and I don't care too much about it. And when we had all of those learnings is when we decided to, set it up as an entity, and expand beyond events and actually move into the entire content space.
So, what made you decide? So, was the first form of Josh, was it a website? Was it an app? What was it?
It was an event. That was it, like a physical event where you could buy a ticket for like 200 rupees, and you'll come and there'll be 8 speakers throughout the day sharing their story. There'll be entertainment, there'll be food, and it was just like, a fun festival of sorts, but one that would leave you, intellectually stimulated, but also get up to take some form of action in your own life. Then we, of course, moved on to launching our website, and we still joke about this because, at that time we used to release one video a week on our website. And that was such a big deal because it was like Monday at 7 p.m. and this is 2015. So everyone would work, like all our volunteers and all of us together would put that one piece of content out at 7 p.m. every single Monday. And today, like we do around 350 videos every month. Uh, so it feels really strange that that's where we started and here we are today.
Actually, yeah, 2015 was also when I think PopX will also be, that's when we started too.
Yeah.
And content production then was hard, especially video content production was really hard because we were just discovering how you create these short forms of video that we wanted to create. So yeah, talk to me about like building the company that is Josh, your first employees, your first investment. How did that come together?
So, for the first couple of years, when we didn't know that there was a business model around this that could be viable, our team was actually volunteer run. So we used to get people from Delhi University to work with us part time after college hours, and right from people who would do content writing to video production to event design to speaker management, every single thing was run by volunteers, and which also then became the DNA of Josh because we realized that all that you need is actually intent to want to do something, and a qualification is not making work happen, right? Because we had people like right from someone who was doing zoology and botany to Hindi to like BCom honors, and everyone is coming and creating content, or doing events, and that slowly became sort of the DNA and the hiring principles of Josh also. That all we need is people who want to work hard, have intent, and want to learn, and everything else we'll figure out our own selves. Because neither of us also had a background in content or anything remotely close to what we were doing at that time. And from an investment point of view, so the first 1.5 to 2 years we ran this as an events company, then we took it online. We started off with English as one language, one YouTube channel, then we launched in Hindi, and then Hindi really gave us progress. It helped us identify who our real community or our audience base is. We started seeing the views compound, and at that time we raised about 1.5 crores from angel investors to take this Hindi into multiple regional languages. And that's really, I feel like 2017 is when we became a company because we had a business model, and we had a structure to how we were doing things.
But then things changed, right? You started off with trying to inspire India's youth, and but today you actually do something that's quite different.
Yeah, so I think it's an evolution of sorts. So one is that inspiration is still the backbone of Josh, right? Like we have people who are coming to us and watching our content every single day because of these inspiring stories. But then what next after you listen to these stories? You are stimulated, but you still don't know how to take action in your own life. So now you also have other Josh products that help you do that. Like if you need to be able to speak in English because it's required for you to get a job, and you need a platform to go to, we have our own English speaking app that helps you do that. If you are someone who's living in a remote city today and you want at home work, and you are say a female and you don't want to step out, we have a program called Jobs for Women that helps you get that. So it's more than just content now. It's a community of people who are learning, growing, have access to the right kind of advice, but also tools to be able to move ahead in their life.
Correct. But let's just take a step back, right? This word community is a much used word,
Yeah.
and all of us have used it. Many of us have used it. Like, I mean, we were India's largest community for women at one point
Hmm.
too, and we did become that. But when we first used it, it was quite aspirational to say that. But what do you define as community? And question one, and then question two is, what is the best way to build or scale a community?
Yeah. So I think for us, community is repeat viewers, people who are watching our content again and again. Because to get one view is relatively easy in today's time and age, but to get people who are coming back to you again and again is what we define as community. For different products, it's different. For people who are learning English with us, of course, if you enrolled in the application and you've paid, then you are a part of that English learning community. But I think this word is something that we all need to sort of focus on and stress on, because this also changes over a period of time. And earlier what we had seen is that like mass communities work, and then you have this user base that you can continue to engage with generically, and then pitch your different products to, and purchases will also happen. But over a period of time, I think what works now is having structured niche communities where people are united by a cause or a common pain point. So even within our channels now, we have Josh Talks Asha, which focuses on women's health and career. So we have a separate community base for that. We have Josh Talks Money, which is our financial literacy channel. So there's a separate community for that. So it's basically divided amongst your interest type, your aspirations, or your pain points.
So, one, of course, is they get content that they can consume.
Yeah.
What are the other functions that you see as kind of important for a community to be formed and then also to be engaged with all the time?
Yeah. So I think, one of the most important things is that a community needs to interact two ways, right? And you have to create instances or occasions for them to do that. So either you can do it digitally through your own application, or you are using, say, WhatsApp, Telegram, etc. And then there's something for them to take back or reply to, but that's very tough to keep up with every single day. So you can have certain instances, or you have a newsletter going out or a weekly broadcast, but I think, even today, I feel that the best way that you engage with your community is when you do something for them offline, when they can come and touch, feel the presence of your brand. And even during COVID, we had stopped doing that, but we've actually relaunched interactive shoots now, where even within our studio, we can have 30 to 40 people sit in the audience and be there to ask us speakers questions. And that also creates aspiration for your brand.
So, this
Because
is the
those
show
30,
that you
40
run,
people.
right?
Yeah, so it's not the show that only I run, but any kind of like content now which goes up on our channel. If you see even our Hindi channel, like for example, Dr. Velumani, who's the founder of ThyroCare, recently came. So there were 30, 40 young, college grads who came and attended that, and they were asking him all the questions, and the content came from those questions or that interaction. We also run a business podcast where we have, like bootstrap billionaires coming and sharing their stories. So in that also, we're trying to introduce live audience. So wherever your brand presence is there, can you create a way for people to interact with that and touch, feel it in the purest form is what really drives engagement. And that's what we're trying to create again and again through our different channels.
Got it. So it's basically how you kind of look. All of us have a definition of a user base, right? For someone, it
Yeah,
might be a user base who consumes content. For someone, it might be a user base who buys a product from you, right? That's basically your user base.
yeah,
So converting your user base into a community, from what I'm just repeating what you're saying, is you look at it as where can you begin those two-way interactions with your base. I guess that's the making of a community, right? Otherwise, it's just a user base that you have that you keep pushing content
absolutely.
to. It's
Yeah.
so, and again, just translating to other folks who might have, I don't know, brands, or who might be trying to build brands right now. What should they keep in mind when they are trying to build and nurture communities of their own?
So, I think a couple of things, and especially because we're living in this time where everyone is creating content. So there's enough that's happening on the internet, right? But not enough people are building communities after that content. So I think one of the good examples of what has happened or evolved is like, if you look at the Nikhil Kamath show, it started out with this interesting new format of 7, 8 people coming together, four
Hmm.
people coming together and chatting. Then he started a one-way conversation series, which
Hmm.
was more in depth with one person going deeper. And then very recently he launched WDF offline, where again certain 200 people were, in a room together and being able to interact. So I think
Hmm.
the first thing is that, like you have to have a plan on what is the end game or engagement that you're trying to create, and then go reverse engineer it to start from point A, right? So I think, like you said, that you can define engagement in a couple of different ways. So if your end goal of engagement is, say, purchasing a particular product, then if that is the call to action, then you have to move back to saying that how can you make your brand more relatable at different touch points for people to drive that purchase. Like even for us, there are two channels that we run, mostly focused on English learning, and that's sort of the content layer for people who come and they purchase our courses for the English learning app. So the communication that we have over there, the interaction that we have, the kind of posts that we put up, the polls that we run, the surveys that we run, the data that we collect is very, very different, say, from a channel like Josh Talks Hindi, where we're just trying to gain mass awareness. So, identifying what your end use
Hmm.
case is and what do you want the user to take action on, and then building the content and community side to it is important.
So that's kind of the mechanics of it. But how do you nurture it, right? Like just pushing one way content, or everyone does that, as you said. But what should people be doing differently so they can actually truly build a community?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is that to make this two-way, Ankur runs a newsletter, right? So every Friday you'll get like Variku something, which is his Friday Variku voice, I think it's called, and he replies to every single email written back on that newsletter. Now that makes him a lot more relatable as a person rather than the unlimited reels that you're scrolling and the content that you're watching. So one is that you can create these two-way interactions even which aren't like very they're sort of like low lifts. So
Mhm.
a newsletter can do that. The second thing is what we're doing right now, like coming in live and inviting questions can be another way where you are allowing for two-way participation. The third is even select few offline conversations or roundtables or even small focus groups with your users can help you do that. And then the fourth is like use Telegram, WhatsApp, etc., where you have group communication happening, but just the environment of being a part of a group makes someone feel better than passively consuming content on the internet. Now you're in an inner circle where you're 250 members or 400 members as opposed to, just an eyeball.
Got
So
it.
that feeling also gets inspired there.
No, that makes sense. But then, a lot of the things that you mentioned are scaling them is hard, right? So
Yeah.
how do you then apply scale when you're trying to build a community?
So I think if you just develop processes to be able to do this in the right form, of course, scaling offline events is very very hard. But like I said, the impact of 200 people coming to an event means that 2 lakh people have heard about it and now are aspiring to be at the next event. So you have to see what your goals are and then use these sort of form of engagements to drive so much
Hmm.
public chatter that people are aspiring to be at the next one. But I think there are a lot of tools that you can use today, Priyanka, where at least you can manage Telegram and WhatsApp communities really, really well.
Hmm.
We use it for almost all of our programs where Telegram is the end sort of goal where everyone comes together and any kind of information or two-way information sharing that happens there. So I think that's one thing which is extremely scalable. And so are formats like this. Every Friday, if you have to show up and you have to do a live, it's just a process that you have to build into your brand identity.
Hmm.
If you're an organization or if you're an individual creator, then it's just something that you have to take out and do. But
Hmm.
as you grow your viewership, you will have in significant mass coming in, and like I don't know if you watch a lot of Instagram lives, but there are people who are just commenting there who are just saying hi, hello sir, mera naam bolo. And the minute you take their name, it's not that one person that you satisfied. It's that 10,000 people who are watching who feel like I'm right here and this person is listening to me.
Got it.
So elements like that are far more scalable.
Got it. Okay, so now let's just change tax. So, I mean, just to kind of inform the audience also, just what are the headline numbers for Josh now?
As of today, on a monthly basis, we do close to 230 million views, with about 100 million unique people watching our content. We are in 9 different languages. We are 25 YouTube channels, and we focus on all forms of content and career, right from stories of say UPSC aspirants to scientists to entrepreneurs. So across the board, any kind of career advice, financial advice, or even health now, starting off with women, Josh is the platform to go to.
And what is the team? What team does it take to build something like this at this scale today?
So it takes a team of people who are, ridiculous as individuals and are unique, and have no inhibitions. We are a fairly lean team. If you look at the numbers that we have, we're like about 100 people total. But everyone, like, there's a lot of diversity at Josh, right? The fact that we are in 9 languages, it's like 9 different cultures collide here. So it's a very interesting workspace. But I think what I was sharing about the DNA of Josh and the initial team and where we are today. It's people who were doing different careers or roles before this, but were trying to find a purpose or a mission to their life. Those are the type of people who join Josh and also grow at Josh. Who want to create a genuine impact, who like seeing real time validation of what they're doing, and have a purpose more than the hours that they spend at work.
And finally, is this a business question mark? And what do you want to do next? How do you want to grow Josh next?
Yeah, so of course this is a business. We do have 100 people, so there's no way that this can't be a business. But yeah, so I mean, luckily we are actually a profitable business. So and that's because of the effort that we made towards scaling media early on and being one of the first players in this entire space for regional content. But then again, English is where we realize that our content can be monetized through a user. And that's sort of the journey that we are on right now as well, where we're trying to figure out what are other use cases where most of our viewership lies. And there is an overlap where people, I think one thing that we've really earned through this entire time is trust. People trust whatever we say, the advice that we give, and whoever is speaking on the platform. So we're trying to figure out what are the other buying decisions that you make on the basis of trust and see if there are products that we can have which overlap with that. So
So you're
that's sort
trying.
of the journey
So
for
you
Josh.
build a community that trusts you, and now you're trying to figure out how you can monetize. But I mean, as you said, you are profitable right now, so you're not really burning money.
Yes. Yeah, we're profitable, and that's because, like the media business that we built it through ad money, right? And we continue to have that as one of the biggest contributors for revenue. So that gives us the comfort and the stability to be able to experiment and actually create things that are valuable. Like if you look at English learning in India, we are the only players who've been here and have stayed. All other companies have shut down because we have low CAC, so we can actually afford to run a 500 rupees course. And that's what community or that content layer that we're talking about does for you. If you have a strong community of people watching and engaging with you, you can launch different products that they are willing to purchase,
Hmm.
because of the trust that they have in you.
And what's next? What are you guys? What's the next big thing?
So the next big thing right now is that we've dabbled a little bit with test prep last year, and we realized that this isn't an area that we're really comfortable with. It's not an industry that we want to enter, even though it's super lucrative. So we're trying to see where there's an overlap between essential life skills and education, and similar to what we've done in English, trying to figure out what are other sort of channels that we can have to actually help people move ahead in their career. Like one of the things that we're very, very sure about as an organization is that, we started out for impact, and that remains the DNA. And that evolution of going from point A to point B has to happen. So we're figuring out what are the other stages that are there in that entire journey where there is an opportunity to monetize, but also create value. And that's where we're in like R&D mode right now to figure out what the next product is going to be.
But you're venture funded, right?
Yes, we are.
And so I mean, are you in the kind of race of looking for? Will you be looking for more money? Will you be raising? What are your plans?
So, as of now, no, because we raised fairly recently, and we raised 3.5 million from Michael and Susan Dell and Anchor Capital. So we have, because we're profitable, we have that runway right now. So we want to figure out first what the next product is going to be and what kind of scale can it reach before raising capital. Uh, so yeah, that's the journey that we're on.
How do you kind of think of, I mean, exit is probably the wrong word, but ultimately, like, what do you see as, uh, how will you return capital to investors?
So there are different, available ways. But again, I think that if you are a brand that is trusted and you have strong unit economics, then there is an opportunity in listing. I mean, there is the SME index as well now, and we've seen how it's done recently with some of the stories that have broken. And I think that, for platforms like us, that could be a way, because that's where that trust actually comes into
Hmm,
play with retail investors. So
got it.
let's see. Yeah,
Awesome. So
we're
now
still
let's
early.
kind of change gears a little bit, right? CXXO, as you know, is uh, a Kalari Capital initiative where we look to back and fund female entrepreneurs, very much like yourself, who are building interesting products that can scale and have impact. But being an entrepreneur is hard, and as I repeatedly say, being a female entrepreneur is harder, right? So let's talk a little bit about your journey as a young woman trying to build a company, trying to scale a company. How was it like? Did you face quote unquote any challenges? What was the how was it like for you?
It was, I mean, it was different. Like, also, when we're talking about 2015, 16, I think now we're very vocal about this conversation online, right? But 2015, 16, it was the norm that you would be like one among the two or three people in a room full of men if you were an entrepreneur. It wasn't like there were barely any companies where there were women co-founders or founders. So I think that journey for the first 4 years was relatively hard, because one was that I was only 19 when I started, right? So there was also the age side to it. That is this something that you'll stick to? Will you be consistent with this, or will you end up doing your masters, or like, is this something that's a hobby that started in college but may not last? So I think there was a bigger age factor to it. And then, of course, as you as you hit that 25, 26 age number, then of course there is a bit of the female clock that comes in even in conversation. So it's been interesting. But I feel like, because I've had a co-founder, I've had it relatively easy. But when I do talk to some of my friends who are single female founders, they've had a very, very hard journey. I think, raising capital for them has been incredibly hard, especially if we look back at 2017, 18. At that time, I think it was the chances were very, very bleak. But it's evolving, it's changing now.
And you mentioned the word impact, right?
Yeah.
How do you measure impact?
So, a couple of different things, but for something like English, it's relatively easy. We actually measure fluency. So you start your journey at point A, you've gone point B, so we know how many levels of English have you improved in. Then there's also an angle of employability, that did that help you get a job or not? So we measure it like that. For any kind of campaigns that we do offline, we have behavior change that we measure it in. But if you look at YouTube, for us, the way to measure impact when it comes to viewership is how much are you watching. So average view duration or average watch time becomes that metric for us. That, are you actually sticking to this video? Are you retained on it? And then, are you taking some form of engagement action on it after? So are you
But like
commenting
these
on it?
are
Are you
engagement
sharing on it?
metrics. What would
Yes.
your impact metrics be? Like, are they the same or would they be different?
So impact metrics for YouTube and for content, honestly, is more, awareness and engagement driven, and then it's anecdotal, right? Like the number of stories or queries that we receive where people are saying that, okay, I've done this after watching your content. But for products, it's a lot more tangible. But one of the things that we do for a lot of the awareness content that we build, which is more advocacy on certain problems or pain points, is behavior change, where we run a lot of surveys pre-video release, and then we run surveys post-video release, and we try and see that has that story shaped something different in how you feel about a particular topic today. So that becomes one way for us to also measure impact.
And with like, of course, with Gen AI and all of this, have your
Yeah.
workflows changed? Has that had an impact on your? I mean, I would assume it's had an impact on your business. How much of an impact has it had?
Yeah, so I think it's brought in a lot of efficiency. Honestly, we've been able to create tools where, like, we've trained, we've been able to train a model to be able to tell us whether this thumbnail sticks to our guidelines or not. So, like people would spend hours on making 20 different thumbnails, and then the editorial team would reject it because it was, say, sensationalized, or the content wasn't good, or the title wasn't good. And now everything is just being checked, automatically. So I think there's efficiency that's been brought in there. There's massive efficiency in editing, like, to convert a long form video into the 10 different versions that need to go on Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, in different languages, was an extremely arduous manual task. We had people across different languages just doing that. But now
Hmm.
there are tools like Descript which allow you to do it instantly. So I think a lot has changed in how we're able to do more with less manual intervention and less people. But from a business perspective, no, I don't think that there's been any kind of a dip associated with, uh, people using AI.
Got it. And so I assume you have a tech team as well, right?
Yes, yeah.
And has their KRA changed because of this? Are they looking more at how they can adopt more such tools, or?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So most of our engineering team is for our English learning app, and one of the biggest things that we are able to now do is give people proper feedback on what they are saying by converting that speech into text and then using AI to be able to do it relatively quicker. And this was like extremely costly to do this earlier, but now we're able to deliver it even when someone like a customer is paying us 500, 600 rupees.
Hmm.
And within that, we are going to be able to give that feedback. So I think learning all of that has become a core part of not just the tech team's KRA, but I think you need an organizational change when you start adopting technology. Like even when you speak of video editing, right? Like this tool Descript, it's relatively easy to use, but it still requires some amount of effort to get trained with. But it saves you 12 hours. But whenever there's something new, there's a little bit of resistance that everyone has because processes get changed, and then you have to evolve and adapt. But I think once everyone gets the hang of it, they enjoy it and they love it. So yeah.
And also, like the Josh, from whatever I can see, at least on social, etc., the Josh team culture is quite strong. So again,
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, how do you look at building something like that, and what are the hallmarks of building a strong team?
So, in fact, like there are a couple of founders who just say that if I ever get a resume from Josh, I don't even interview them. I hire them because I know that they are like the biggest hustlers that you'll ever meet in your life, and they'll figure out any role. And that's sort of the culture or the DNA of Josh. And I think when you start out in college, you start out as like it's sort of like there's this brotherhood or this sisterhood that you can't really speak of or define, and that has grown on to becoming the culture of Josh. That people are owners of whatever they're doing. They have goal sheets which are assigned to them, and everyone across the organization works on goal sheets quarterly. But everyone is helpful to each other. The culture is of people wanting to go out of their way and their regular KRA to make someone else successful, because the purpose of the organization is bigger than what they were chasing elsewhere. And I think that's how our hiring process has also been, that a lot of people are people who've been in very structured corporate roles, who've moved here, who want to be in flexible roles where they can do more than their regular KRA.
Hmm.
And I
But how
think
do
one
you
of the
build
things,
that?
just by giving people ownership, like I think, like, just I think most people have a problem with being able to delegate effectively, but also make people accountable after you've delegated. And we don't see where you're from, what language you speak in, how old are you, if the task assigned to you is something that you're delivering on. And then everyone is there to help you. So, you will have a 23-year-old non-engineer actually working on, say, the English learning app and
Hmm.
building the AI-based feedback, right? So, and he'll succeed because there are other four engineers who are helping him do that. And then when everyone else sees that success story, they also want to experiment, they also want to be in a situation like that, so it helps. But I think ownership is the only thing that we've done, that everyone is accountable for one particular goal, at least, and they are the sole responsible person for that.
Got it. And just kind of storytelling is probably like a core DNA of Josh, right? Because you mean
Yeah.
you've built telling stories is basically how you've built the Josh community. So, what is the power of storytelling, and how can someone do it well? And what have you learned? Like you've done like thousands of interviews now. So, what have you learned?
So I think the basics of storytelling are that you just have to be authentic and you have to be yourself. That's literally it, right? Like, I think most of the times when we are talking about storytelling, people think of theatrics associated with it, drama, visual presentations, and cues. But it's actually what is acceptable and loved on the internet is you being yourself. And every time that you show up as you, people are going to love you and accept you and share your content. But it's very, very important. Like, I remember going into an investor meeting in 2017. The first time we were raising around, and there was an angel investor. I'd heard so much about him, and I went in fully prepared. Like, I made the pitch deck, I made the financials for 5 years in a pre-revenue company, making financials for 5 years, and all of that for like a angel check, like very, very small, right? At that time, 15-20 lakhs, and he didn't even ask to see any of it. So I was very shocked. I was like, listen, I've got this presentation, should I email it to you? Because I was like, listen, I've put in so much work, I want to share this.
Hmm.
And he said, no, your mission is so strong, you communicated it so effectively, I don't need to see anything else. And that's when I realized that, actually, even when you look at sales, that's all that there is. When someone is comparing your platform to another platform to advertise on, while numbers are great to have and some people are buying your eyeballs, most people are buying who you are as a person and what you can deliver, and that can only come across as your story. So just be raw, real, authentic, consistent, and crisp. uh, that's pretty much it to be
And
successful.
how can this be used by brands to again tell their narrative effectively?
So do you mean how can they use Josh as a platform, or
No, no, no. I
how
mean,
can they
how can
use
like
storytelling?
brands use brands or startups even use this to again become storytellers for their own the platforms that they're building?
So I think a couple of things. One is that people love having a face to a brand. So even if it isn't yourself as the promoter or the founder, but you do have someone who's your brand representative or ambassador, putting them out there to have communication with user bases is extremely important. So I think that's one way. Also, if you've seen how social media has evolved, right? There wasn't a time when all founders were on Instagram creating content, and now it's become a norm. If you are running a business in India and you're not posting on Instagram, it's like, why? Like, what's happening? Why aren't you doing that? Because it just makes you so much more relatable and accessible. I think what brands can do is by sharing the why behind their brand and also the products that they have, especially in times of launches. And second thing, which we also help brands actually do, is share stories of beneficiaries. What really moves people, and we've seen this at Josh, is when a brand is delivering on a product. So, for example, a WhatsApp, right? If a business is using WhatsApp and has scaled from a small village in Haryana, that story is far more powerful than any representative coming and sharing the benefits of using WhatsApp. So
Hmm.
show more about how people are using your product as opposed to talking about yourself again and again.
And authenticity, right? Being having that
Yeah,
authentic brand voice.
absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so cool. So now we come to this section that we call the CXXO that one thing, right? And so yeah, it's literally like that one thing that you had to unlearn when you were building Josh Talks.
Yeah. Um, Excel sheets aren't everything. Your story is.
Obviously, given your BCom background, you grew
Yeah,
up in
yeah.
Excel sheets.
I was a big accounting nerd. I used to think that the world runs because of Excel.
And now,
Now I think the world runs because of people.
and that one thing to find that perfect co-founder.
Just this is a really tough one, but like, I think passion and alignment on a mission, and everything else you figure out. But just that energy, like, does your energy match at that level is something that's really important.
That one thing we don't talk about enough as female founders.
Ourselves. We never talk
But,
about ourselves.
but it's changing now.
Yeah, I think it is changing with social media, but still, I think we're still reserved to talk about ourselves unabashedly. I still feel like there's a little bit of a filter on how people might perceive us or judge us. So it's still not there yet. Like uh, that's what I
That
feel.
one thing you do to be comfortable before you're on a camera.
Oh, I do a check.
What is
Yeah.
that?
No, I mean I just come on Zoom, I mirror my video and see, flip my hair, but it's important I check. Yeah.
That one thing you wish you knew when you're first starting, Josh.
That building relationships to scale a business is very very important. Like you can't be like I'm an introvert, so like for the first 2 3 years I just felt very uncomfortable and awkward in places. Networking wasn't something that I knew how to do, so I was staying away from it. But I think it's very very important to put yourself out there, meet new people and build relationships.
That one thing that you wish all other female founders knew today. Like it's a different environment from when you first started.
I think, I don't know if this is relevant for female founders, but because we have like 60% women at Josh, I feel like, the one thing that we should all know is that we are worth it. Like, if we've got a seat at the table, no, we've earned it. I still feel like half the time we're just doubting and comparing, and, it's still not there yet. So that's one thing that I feel really like strongly about that, like, stop second guessing yourself. You made it.
What is the that one advice you got that was really bad and you took it?
It was really bad, and I took it.
Yeah, we all get good. I mean, you all claim to get good advice. What's that bad piece of advice you received?
Like, at that time it sounded really bad, but my dad basically used to keep saying that mediocrity is a crime, and I never got it back then because this was when I was in school and I was in college. But I took it, I realized, and I decided that whatever I do, I don't want to be mediocre at it. So maybe I'll do fewer things in my life, but I do want to be really good and effective at them.
Well, I'll tell you mine. So mine was
Hmm.
early on. We had just raised some money, and someone's like, "Oh, go hire a chief of staff." I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure." And then later on, when you raise more money, someone's like, "Go hire this really expensive person because you need, like, you need."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
again, to all founders out there, please don't. Right? Just these are not good things to do when you have just raised money. What is
True.
that best piece of the best piece of advice you received?
um that it's not a zero sum game. Someone doesn't have to lose for you to win, and the more collaborative that you become and you try and make people win together, you will also grow as an individual and your business will also grow.
Cool. So that was our that one thing section. And now let's just talk. We have a few more minutes. So this, when the one question that I had that I had not asked, and I mean, wondering whether I should, but you are an introvert, and I know you, right? Which is why I can say that. So how does an introvert become a co-founder of a video-based media company and do well at it?
By not being on camera themselves. So for the longest time, I was so uncomfortable with just being on camera or being present or being at events and speaking and all of that. That I loved being the person behind the scenes. I loved curating content. I just loved putting everything together, organizing it, but not showing up to be in front of it. But then over a period of time, I built that confidence, and honestly, like, it took practice. And people talk of these techniques and they make fun of it, but I am a person who used those techniques like genuinely. I was so, like, if you would have seen me 5 years ago, I had an issue with even looking at a person right in their eyes and speaking, because I was just always so quiet and sheltered that I didn't like talk like that. So I actually used the mirror technique where I would try and look at myself in the mirror, appreciate myself, speak to me, and then use that confidence or carry it to the next meeting. Um, but I feel like, being an introvert helps also, because I don't know. I don't know if it's like a complementary trait, but you think a lot, you analyze things a lot more. You have four situations in front of you at all times because you're in your head all the time. So you are ready for every kind of thing. But yeah, I think yeah, and also being an introvert doesn't mean that you don't build relationships with people, right? Like I, from the very first day, have had very, very strong one-on-one relationships with people, and that has helped us a lot through the entire fundraising journey, or even scaling or starting different product lines. So it's, be comfortable with who you are. Like, don't say that, oh, I'm an introvert, so I don't want to be, I don't like myself for being this way. This is you. How will you make this work for you is more important.
And also, you're well soon to be joining the ranks of co-founders who are also a couple, right? And you and
Yeah.
Shobit uh, have been. You had this very romantic proposal in Paris, the video of which went literally viral. So, how do you navigate something like that, and how do you work with someone who's also your life partner?
So I'll tell you in about 2 3 years, because I don't know after this stage what it would be like. But I think, if two people have the same mission in life, they know that they want to solve for a problem for a very long time. I think things just work out. Like, it doesn't. You don't need to be a couple, or whatever it is. It's any kind of co-founder relationship is very hard, right? Like, you're literally like someone's work wife or husband in any case. So I think what has worked for us in the past as well has just been like knowing who's the decision maker for what, and who will take the final call on what aspects. And that streamlining that just helps overall navigate any kind of conflicts and just makes decision making easier.
But do you guys have like boundaries, or are you like working like 24/7 and that's all you do? Given that your work and home kind of, I'm sure they bleed into each
Yeah.
other.
So it's, I mean, honestly, right now we're in a phase where we're still back to the drawing board, right? So it's, you're in founder mode, that now everyone is talking about your day zero of building a new startup within an organization that exists and has a legacy. So right now there is no other time. It's actually just work most of the time. But we've been here for a very long time, so we know that there are phases, and at certain times, certain phases require you to be all in, and
Hmm.
then there are certain times where you do get a break to do everything else.
But does it make it hard for your team? I've always wondered that actually. Like I mean, when navigating it for you guys is different, but how does the team find it to navigate between two co-founders who are actually partners as well?
So, honestly, we don't have cross-functional reporting at all, and we have very, very different KRAs. So there's never any kind of an overlap. And like, it depends on what the culture of the company is, right? We've never had hierarchy in any case. Like, if you come to our office, and people are just shocked that, okay, like, like you'll basically just, nobody knows who's each other, nobody knows ye founder hai, ye wo hai. Everyone is at the same level, and that's how you're treated, like everyone is just friends. So I think because we have that culture, people are very free to speak their mind, irrespective of looking at how relationships or dynamics are.
So when did the
um,
team find out, and how did you tell them then?
So actually, a lot of them found out from that video. But of course, the close ones knew from before, and yeah, I think Shobit did the job of telling everyone before the proposal. But yeah, but they were really excited. I was really scared when I came back to office, thinking that, oh, people are going to be judgy, and is this going to change dynamics, like the questions that you're asking. But everyone was really excited. They were just happy. So it
Yeah,
was
and
very
I
nice
can
to
tell
see that.
because I'm on the sidelines of your wedding planning, and half the time you're like, oh, this function, everyone's going to come. So like you're having this whole
Yeah,
wedding, then you're having
yeah.
second thing that you have to do to invite all your speakers. So of all the Josh talks you've done, which was your favorite?
Many, but I think one of them, which is super close to my heart, is a story that I keep telling again and again. But I have to, because I just love that story. Is of a girl called Sheetal, who is the daughter of a bar dancer from Kamatipura in Mumbai. And she was this girl who was, had a very, very traumatic childhood. Was in rooms where her mom was servicing customers and she was under the bed. So that kind of trauma. But the window of that room was always open, and she would hear the sounds of the dhol during Ganpati. And she actually ended up getting 100% scholarship to the US drum school, and now is a teacher teaching drums across India, touring the country. And she was the first standing ovation of Josh. So that picture is very, very vivid in my head of everyone coming together, crying and just applauding her. So I just love what she did.
Do you get obvious comparisons to TED Talks?
So
And what do you say?
yeah, we did because क्या होता है ना, like everyone anyway wants to put you down in some way, so they try and say
Hmm.
अच्छा अब तू उसका copy हो ये वो and all that. But I think what's happened is because now we are so massive, we are so regional focused that there is a clear differentiator. In the early days when we were doing events, of course, the format is similar, so there were more comparisons. But honestly, like the viewership in India and the scale that we are at is very, very different, right?
Hmm.
Because like we are a country of 1.2 billion. So when we say we have 200 million viewers who are watching our content, then you can't be compared because you have
Yeah,
that user base already and you've outgrown that comparison in a way.
awesome. What is the thing we haven't spoken about that you like to talk about?
Oh, I feel like we've covered everything, but we haven't spoken about you. How is CXXO doing, and what are you looking at now? Like, what are the type of companies you want to invest in?
Yeah, no, CXXO is fantastic, and kind of one of the joys of my kind of what I do right now is I get to spend these evenings with entrepreneurs like you, and most of them actually till now happen to be friends as well. So that's always nice. And as I was saying before we started the masterclass, that I actually didn't know a lot of these work things about you that I've discovered. So my
Yeah.
next thing is to actually take to Josh office and to actually check
Yeah.
you guys out there. So I look forward to that. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. I hope to see you soon. And hopefully looking to work with you and Josh a lot more at CXXO.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.